Hi everyone, it's Andrew Ambrosius and welcome back to the Art of Business English. Now in today's episode, I wanted to help you guys with some idioms for describing trends while you're giving a presentation. Now I know that when you're presenting in English, it can be a little nerve-wracking, and as such, I wanted to help you guys feel a bit more confident when you're presenting by providing you with some useful expressions that will hopefully put a smile on your face as well as impress those around you with your amazing business English skills. So what are we going to be looking at today? Well, in today's episode, we'll be covering 3 points. First, we're going to discuss what is an idiom. Okay, just quickly describe those. Then I'm going to give you some idioms which you can use for opening a presentation, talking about trends in the body of your presentation with some examples and the translation, and also how you can practice using these idioms. Okay, so let's get started on this mini episode. Right, what is an idiom? Well, I'm often asked this, okay, what are idiomatic expressions? Even people who are native often have no idea what an idiom is. But put quite simply, an idiom is an expression, okay? The problem with idioms is that they're not really easily translated because the literal meaning of the individual words is not related to the meaning of the expressions. So for example, to be over the moon, like this means to be excited or ecstatic, so very, very happy. However, if we look at the expression and the literal meaning, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you can't be over the moon, okay? Over the moon, how would you translate that? So you need to really understand the idioms, their translation, and then them in context, okay? So basically, idioms are groups of words that go together to form expressions, okay? And these are understood by native people in specific contexts, but are not easily translated or understood. So if we look at the literal meaning, all right? So that's the most important thing to remember about idioms. You cannot translate them literally. And for example, if I give you an expression in Spanish, mala leche, okay? Él o ella tiene mala leche. Okay, this expression cannot be translated literally into English because if you say that he or she has bad milk, people will look at you very strangely, okay? So now that you guys understand what idioms are, let's look at some of them that we can use in our presentations for opening presentations, closing presentations, and talking about trends in the body of our presentation, all right? So, firstly, it's important to note that there are many, many expressions and many types of idioms, okay, that can be used at different stages of presenting. However, today I've just selected a few, okay, and as I said, I'm going to focus the episode on describing trends. So this basically means that imagine you are giving a presentation about sales figures or the trends in the market or something like that to a group of people. All right. So we need vocabulary and expressions that can describe trends. Okay, trends are tendencias. Now it's, as I said before, and I've said in other podcasts, it's much easier to remember a short list of 5 or 10 expressions, okay? So we can start to use them once we've memorized them and understand them within context. This is much easier than trying to study a list of 50 idioms, all right? So that it's not remembering the meaning of each one, all right? The most important thing is to understand the context and then to use them, all right, in your daily English, all right? That's the most important thing. Learning, applying. This is the most effective way to learn a language, okay? You learn something and then you apply it straight away. All right, so let's look then at the opening stage of a presentation, okay? The following idioms can be used to open a presentation, all right, and get things rolling. There's an idiom, to get things rolling. Look at the examples and then the translation, and if you're listening to this podcast, then you can practice the pronunciation. If you're reading the post on the Art of Business English website, then I do recommend that you listen to the podcast because then you'll get the pronunciation. So let's go. to get the ball rolling. All right, that's the first one. To get the ball rolling. Now, remember, in English with pronunciation, I'm going to talk a little bit about pronunciation. We don't pronounce words individually. The words merge together. Okay, so to get the ball rolling, the is the weak form. Okay, the has a weak form, which is the. So to get the ball rolling. And now an example. Okay, let's get the ball rolling. That means in Spanish, empezar or poner manos a la obra. Okay, so you can see now from the meaning what it means. To kick off, this comes from football. To kick off, I'd like to kick things off by 11 a.m., which is arrancar. Okay, so to kick things off by 11 a.m. basically means to start by 11 a.m. Next one, to get down to business or to get down to something. Okay, let's get down to business and start the meeting. So again, this is ponerse manos a la obra. All right, so to get down to something or get down to business, or we can get down to work. All right. Next one is to dive in. Dive in. Okay, so again, dive in. It becomes almost one word. Dive in. So let me dive in to my first point. All right, which is lanzarse. Okay, it's to really get in there. To get in there. Another idiom. And the next one is to cover. To cover. In my presentation, I'll be covering 3 points. So, I mean, you can see with the verb to cover, it's not cover, or cover, it's cover. Okay, we often put er, the er at the end of a verb or a noun is neutra, la. It's a neutra, cover, cover. So in my presentation, I'll be covering 3 points, which basically means to cubrir or incluir. Next one, to go over. All right, I would like to go over 3 main areas during my presentation. Go over. So go finishes with O, and over begins with O, so it's one link. Go, not go over, it's go over. Okay, so the 2 O's merge to form one O, and there's a smooth transition between go and over. It's not go over, it's go over. So, go over something to me is darle vueltas a algo, okay? Or revisar, repasar. So, next one and the last one for this section is to finish up with. To finish up with. You'll notice that a lot of idiomatic expressions have a preposition in them, okay, like in or up or on. And the problem with this is that with prepositions in English, they're often very weak in their pronunciation. So it's not up, it's to finish up, up, okay? So the up is it's a neutra. So sometimes it can be difficult for non-native people to really understand or hear the preposition being pronounced. Okay, so to finish up with, in my third point, I'll finish up with a forecast for the next 3 months. So in my third point, I will finish up with a forecast for the next 3 months. So to finish up with means to concluir. Okay, to conclude. All right, so that's the end of the first part. In the second part, we'll be looking at, which is during the presentation, and here is where I'm going to focus on some of the idioms that we use for describing trends and changes. So I want to look at some idioms here for describing trends. Let's imagine the presentation we're giving is related to a sales report or a sales meeting, and we're talking about figures. Now, figures are cifras. Again, there are many presentation topics, okay, but the secret to learning idioms is to focus on specific topic areas, okay? And try and practice the correct pronunciation of these as well. Right, so to rocket. Okay, a rocket is un cohete. So here you can get some idea of what to rocket means. The stock price has rocketed since the discovery of oil. To rocket means dispararse. So in English, a rocket is a noun and to rocket is a verb. Okay, so it's two. It's 2 for 1. To rocket is a noun and a verb. To bounce back. To bounce back. To bounce back. All right, to bounce back. I'm not sure how the company will bounce back from the scandal. All right, so recuperarse is to bounce back. Okay, for example, you can use bounce back in other areas. For example, have you bounced back from your cold? Okay, te has recuperado de tu resfriado. All right, so we can use bounce back elsewhere. Let's look at the next one. To take off. So to take off is more commonly used with, or most commonly used with aeroplanes, no? Despegarse. So to take off is despegarse. But we can also use it when we're talking about trends, okay? So sales took off in the third quarter as Christmas shopping started early. So you can see that the sales, las ventas, no? They took off, despegaron. So that can be applied to talking about trends and changes. The next one, to plunge. Now, to plunge is pretty much the opposite of taking off. The recent plunge in the stock market has wiped out billions of dollars in value. Okay, to wipe out is borrar, erase. But to plunge is una caída, and it's una caída bastante fuerte. Okay, so it's important that you understand plunge is a sudden, okay, de repente, and profound, profundo, or so it's una caída profunda. Okay, so we can use plunge to talk about negative growth, or the negative growth, or drops in prices, decreases in prices. All right, and the final one is to get off to a flying start. Sorry, the second last one. To get off to a flying start. All right, what does that mean? Well, the company has got off to a flying start this year with higher than expected sales. Okay, so we can probably work out what that means if we look at the example. The company has got off to a flying start this year with higher than expected sales. So it basically means un comienzo con muy bien pie. But it basically means a really, really good start to something. Okay, so if you get off to a flying start, we can apply that to a race. Okay, if there's a running race, we can say the person who came first got off to a flying start, okay, and left everyone behind. And the last one is to level off. So after a good start to the year, sales leveled off. Okay, level off means to go flat. So estabilizarse would be to level off. Okay, so after a period of growth, sales went flat. And the last part is closing the presentation. All right, let's look at the final part for closing the presentation. In this part, we will look at some idioms for bringing your presentation to a conclusion. Remember, your conclusion should summarize clearly the ideas mentioned in your presentation. That's very important. It is also customary to take questions at the end of your presentation, so be ready to invite the audience and to ask them if they have any questions. All right, so let's start. First one, to bring to an end. Okay, to bring to an end. Again, so you can see with the pronunciation, I mean, I don't say to bring to an end. I say to bring to an end. To an end. To an end. So to an end almost becomes one word. To an end. To an end. So it's very important, if you want to improve your English, that you understand how native English speakers merge or bring words together. And maybe I'll have to do another podcast episode on pronunciation of the weak form of prepositions and articles. Okay, but today we're just going to focus on these idioms. So to bring to an end, I would like to bring my presentation to an end by saying ... Okay, so I'd like to bring my presentation to an end by saying, and then you would say the last part of your presentation. And the translation for that is llevar a término. Next one, to wrap things up. Okay, I'll just wrap things up with a suggestion for the next quarter. So to wrap things up basically means redondear. Redondear. Okay? Redondear. And the next one is to finish up. I'll finish up by saying, okay? I'll finish up by saying, finish up. Terminar, okay? To finish up is terminar. Next one, to clear up any doubts. To clear up any doubts. To clear up any doubts. So now, can I clear up any doubts? To clear up something is aclarar. Okay, aclarar. And finally, to take some questions. Thank you for listening. I will now take some questions. So take questions is basically answering questions. So contestar preguntas, okay? So basically, those are 18 idiomatic expressions, all right, that we can use at different stages of a presentation, all right, if we're describing trends or change. And now, in the third part of this podcast, I want to quickly discuss how to study idioms. Basically, before I leave today, I'm going to give you some tips, okay? So let's have a look at those. The first thing you need to do is to start with small groups of idioms, and I suggest no more than 5 at a time. And what's also important is these idioms should be chosen from a specific topic area, okay? It's very important that you find the translation for the idioms, as this will help you to understand them, because, as I said before, they cannot be translated literally, okay? You cannot translate them literally, otherwise they don't make any sense. So what can you do? Basically, you can find a idioms dictionary, okay? There are many. You can download them or you can buy them. And you can also look them up on the internet on pages such as wordreference.com. Then once you have understood the meaning, you need to then try and find some examples, okay, of them, because idioms work best when they are in context, okay? They work best for specific situations, and you need to understand them within this context before you can apply them properly, all right? Now, I also recommend this. You need to create an idioms list, and the list should be based on topic areas, okay? For example, in this episode, as you know, I have chosen the topic area of idioms for describing trends while presenting, which is much more specific than just idioms. And this is easier then to find the idioms and their context, okay, and how to find them used in specific context. And once you have an idioms list, what's important is that you also know the definition and some examples of them in use, and then that you start to apply them to your English, okay? If you just learn idioms for the sake of learning idioms, it's not going to be a very effective way to learn. You need to apply them to your everyday situation. So learn, apply, learn, apply. By doing that, you're much more likely to remember them, okay? Because you start applying them to your daily English, and therefore you will remember, okay? So final thoughts. There you have it, okay? Idioms for describing trends while presenting. Make sure that you listen to the podcast and pause and repeat for the pronunciation practice, okay, of the 18 idioms that I've given you in this episode. And make an idioms list, okay, on your computer. Start a Word document or in a notepad. Start writing down the idioms that you learn, okay? And then start using them in your daily activity. That's incredibly important, okay? And that's pretty much it for trying to learn idioms. Slowly but surely, you will learn them as you study them a little bit every week. And as always, it's a pleasure to have you here at the Art of Business English, and I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Please can you comment over at the AOBE website if you do want to say anything, or if you do have any questions. Again, you can also have a look or find us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/the AOBE. And again, if you do like this episode, subscribe to our iTunes podcast channel, and again, share it with your friends. We love to get and reach more people. And again, if you do have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. I love to be there to help you guys and to develop any material that will be of use to you. And until next week, take care, and I hope you guys have a great day and a great week. Bye for now.